Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? If I'm audible, then please type a yes in the chat window. Okay, that's great. Okay, so thank you. Welcome to today's webinar on live profile evaluation session, which we are doing with University of Maryland, Robert H. Smith School of Business. For those of you who are new to Jamboree or perhaps attending this for the first time, we are a leading institute offering classroom and online test prep solutions for GMAT, GRE, SAT, TOEFL, IELTS. We also offer host of other services like admission counseling, interview preparation, visa counseling, etc. So now I'm happy to introduce Mr. Sukriti Sinha, who spearheads the student recruitment, corporate partnerships, and alumni outreach initiatives at Robert H. Smith School of Business. Here we will be discussing in this particular forum, since this is a profile evaluation session, we will be discussing profiles of 4 candidates who have volunteered with us to discuss their profile in this forum. The names are Shreyas Rao, Shubhda Avadh, Sumit Mohan Lakhera, and Jeet Sethi. So all of these candidates or all of these students can be, can raise their hands once so that I will be able to unmute them when their turn comes, and you can have a direct one-to-one conversation with the representatives from Smith School of Business. For people who do want to discuss their profiles but have not got the opportunity to do it in this forum particularly, can leave their name and number in the chat, and we will be, and Mr. Sukrit Sinha, he will be available from tomorrow onwards, so he will be sharing a Google link with all of you so that you can schedule a one-on-one session with him. So a very warm welcome, Sukriti. Let us start with your session. And other and participants, one small request, please hold on to your questions. We will be having a Q&A session at the end. At that time, you can type in your questions in the chat window. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Sinha.
Thank you, Shivani. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. Welcome, everyone. Good evening to people who have joined us from India, and good morning or good afternoon from people who have joined us globally. My name is Shukirti, and I am the Assistant Director for Recruitment and Collaboration at the Smith School of Business, University of Maryland. I will come to University of Maryland very quickly, but before that, just want to clear out the agenda for what we are doing here. Jamboree, has been a great partner for us, and we decided to conduct this session with Jamboree because one of our deadlines are coming up, and we also want to have that quality candidates, which is in the Jamboree network. Smith School of Business, Robert H. Smith School of Business, as it is formally called, is based out of Washington, if you are aware of it. I'm not sure how many people have heard or have researched about the university. So I will first start off with a very brief presentation of the kind of programs that we offer, the kind of opportunities there are if you are doing MBA or a master's in any of the portfolio programs that we have. And then we will switch on to individual resume. We will look at what are the gaps, what are the kind of things you can do to improve that, so that you stand a chance to win an admit in a very, very competitive pool which comes out of India. Right. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen here. All right, so welcome to Maryland Smith. Robert H. Smith School of Business, or the Maryland Smith, as it is called, is based out of Washington. It's a university in College Park, a University of Maryland, which is also one of the foremost universities in terms of research, in terms of innovation, and in terms of business and data analytics. We offer a lot of programs starting from the undergrad to the full-time, the part-time MBAs, the full-time business masters, as well as the MBA programs. Then we also have a lot of executive, especially in countries like China and in the US, where a lot of senior leadership from the industry come to our faculties for consultation, for leadership and development trainings, and many other consulting opportunities, be it in strategizing, be it in marketing. We are present, and that is why we are one of the foremost business schools of the world. We have a good amount of faculty who have great analytical abilities, and they have done interdisciplinary things in say an analytics branch and a healthcare branch, for example. So a lot of diverse faculty in place. We are just located 8 miles from the nation's capital, that is Washington, D.C. And that's why one of the biggest charms of coming to the University of Maryland is staying very close to where business flourishes, actually. Right. So being the nation's capital, we are heavily connected to a lot of industries which are in and around the Washington, the Virginia area, which gives us a lot of leverage in placing our students to those kind of companies. The mission for Smith School of Business is developing fearless leaders. We have been a highly ranked university in terms of entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of centers of excellence, particularly in the entrepreneurship area. And the career outcome of a lot of people who come to our MBA or the MS programs is, they end up finding a co-founder for their company. So the entrepreneurial spirit runs deep within the ecosystem. There is a very strong community of TERPs, how the Smith School of Business alumni are referred as. We are called TERPs. And there's a very strong community of TERPs around the world as well as established in India. I will talk to you about the alum chapter that has been recently formed in India for the Smith School of Business. And we have amazing set of people who are running companies, who are at very, very senior positions in the most top-notch companies that you can find, Ernst & Young, JP Morgan Chase, McKinsey, for example. A lot of people have started their own companies, and they're all willing to help recent graduates, who have attained the MBA or the masters in getting them placed into the industry, in coaching them, in mentoring them, all sort of support that you expect from an alumni network, right? So we have a strong community based on that. The curriculum design is very experiential in nature, which means that we are heavily focused towards the analytics part of things, right? As the world, moves towards data and, getting those smart insights from data, we understand that if we are not oriented, if we are not training people in data analytics or business intelligence, how are we then creating a workforce that is ready for Industry 4.0? And that is why we have, got the best faculties of the world. We have a curriculum design which is very, very experiential in nature, which means that we have a lot of case studies in place. We have a lot of, hackathons, business case competitions in place. The cohort often works with people in and around that Washington area with, companies like Deloitte, companies like KPMG, which are, harnessing the potential of these Smith School graduates into their own companies. So a lot of strategic advantage to come to Smith School of Business. And that is how our mission has been defined as, developing that fearless leader in the world who can, go ahead and take on challenges, in this age of digital transformation that is happening. It is very, very important to be a digitally empowered person. And that is what we focus on, building that digitally empowered person in you. A small snapshot of where we stand in terms of the numbers. You can see that we have a very, very strong faculty body, which is 170 odd people. The class size of a MBA program is around 155 to 165. Depends upon every year what kind of applications we receive and how much quality we can derive out of that. The MS students form a large base of our population. So we have 8 MS programs. Some of them are STEM qualified, some of them are not. And we'll discuss a little later about that as well. But a huge body of the entire Smith School is composed of those MS students. We have close to 66,000 alumni, around the globe. And I wanted to bring this to attention because that is one of the accomplishments that we recently got. Is 18 of Maryland Smith professors were named among the top 2% worldwide. So you can really think about the intellectual power that comes to the university because these faculty members are teaching. Right. I'm sure you will not be able to identify any of them, and they are just faces. But if you can read about probably Dr. Anil Gupta, who is one of the foremost faculties in the area of entrepreneurship and India-China markets, or you can read about Dr. Ritu Agarwal, who was the interim dean of the Smith School of Business, who is doing groundbreaking work in healthcare analytics. Or you can read about Dr. P.K. Kennan. So the list goes on and on. I can talk about a lot of the faculties who have really exploded into the business world with their very, very innovative research. But the bottom line is all these faculty members contribute their intellectual capital in designing the curriculum, in meeting the people, and you feed off a lot of intellectual prowess from them when you interact with them on a daily basis or on a weekly basis when they teach you in the classes, right? So there is a huge amount of intellectual development that can happen if you come to Smith and be a part of our ecosystem. Very, very highly ranked in the world. We are across the board, from Economist to US News and World to Financial Times to all the major ranking organizations of the world have ranked all of our programs within the top 30 bracket, right? So it's interesting to note that we are a state university, so that brings a lot of credibility to it, and also we are very, very highly ranked in all of our portfolio programs. So what I was trying to communicate from that point was you have a good amount of opportunity cost that you can take out of when you are coming to Maryland Smith as a student. We are based out of Washington, as I previously said, and you can see the list of a very snapshot of the companies that are present in the area, from PwC to Facebook to Google. In tech, in advisory, in consulting, we are present in all the areas, working with the entire ecosystem of the business around Washington and the DC area and the Upper Virginia areas. Right. So strategically, again, it makes a lot of sense. What we can discuss a little bit about is the kind of student profiles, because this is the profile evaluation session that we are having, and I quickly want to run through this slide. The MBA that we offer is a program which is heavily dependent upon the work experience that you have, for people who will be interactive with me later on one-on-one, I'll be sharing a few career paths that our graduates have taken. People moving from a very engineering sort of a background into consulting, into strategic marketing, and all of that. So we will connect on that later on. But it is heavily dependent upon the kind of experience that you have. So in general, people have 2 to 3 years of work experience, or even more. Like the average class is made up of people with 5 years of experience, and that is why is one of the reasons why we also discount this year the GRE and the GMAT, because we understand that people coming into the program have good amount of quantitative abilities, have good amount of business acumen with them, and we are ready to overlook that part which only grades you on the recommended scores, but not just on the overall profile of the candidate. Leadership is often one of the things we very closely look at in the CV, in the SOP. We are looking for people who have led their organization somehow in the past 5 years. Maybe they have been promoted, maybe they have been an exceptional sort of a professional, and they have shown that initiative. They have shown that leadership quality in them, which we are also looking out for. So leadership experience is usually one of the most important sort of aspects which you should discuss upon if you are writing the statement of purpose for the Smith School of Business. We are also looking out for a very diverse class. The MS candidates are a lot of people from India, but we have a huge majority of people from China, from Northern Africa, from Middle East, right? So it's a diverse class that we are looking out for, and that's why it is very important for you to stand out somehow in that very, very competitive Indian pool that comes in with a similar set of experiences, similar set of profiles, and that is dependent upon how you draft your probably your SOP, your CV, what kind of letter of recommendation do you have. And that's why we would talk about the CV, four shortlisted CVs that we are talking about, and you can identify in your CV as well what are the gaps, what are the shortcomings that you should improve upon before applying to the program. For the specialized master program, there is no mandatory requirement for a work experience, but most of our class comprises of people who have 1 or 2 years of work experience, and also a lot of people come directly off the undergrad, right? So we look at the profiles very holistically and then decide what sort of class profile we are matching, what is the diversity of the class, how many people are engineers only, how many people are from the business management or economic sort of background, stats background, and we consider a holistic kind of a profile and then give out the sort of admits. So this is the full portfolio of what the Smith School of Business offers. So we are offering, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 programs in masters, right? So we have business analytics and information systems, which are the most popular programs out there. Then there is quantitative finance. These are all STEM-enabled programs. So you can apply for like a 2 years OPT extension when you find a job after this, right? Also, supply chain management is one of the very, very important areas that we offer. And we do see that not a lot of universities have incorporated a data analytics or a data sort of driven kind of insight into the supply chain management area, right? So we are one of the universities that do offer that. One of the very important coursework that we also have is marketing analytics, which is our oldest program. It started off when these terms like marketing analytics were not used together. It was more about digital marketing, running campaigns and all of that. But how does the number game come into the picture in marketing? How do you evaluate that customer behavior, and how do you then build value to that product that you are offering to them? That is what it is taught in the marketing analytics field. Apart from that, we have that full-time MBA program, which is offered in 3 campuses, which is DC, Rockwell, and Baltimore. We have an online MBA, and then there are 2 executive MBA programs which runs in China. Right. So very quickly, scrolling through the brochures for Master of Finance, Master of Quantitative Finance, we can have a discussion, one-on-one if you like one of those programs, and you want to discuss if you are the right candidate or not for that. Probably, starting from tomorrow, you can schedule an appointment with me, and I'll be happy to discuss your profile, what suits you and what not. And then, so there is business analytics, there is information systems, marketing analytics, supply chain management. Quickly, I want to touch upon the MBA program, which is very heavily dependent upon the career services that we have. And there is a parallel track of career readiness that runs throughout the curriculum, in the 2 years, when you are coached about how to crack a job, how to crack a network, how to build your resume, how to build your pitch to a particular company, how to negotiate an offer, all those important aspects of finding a job is properly built into the curriculum, and that's why we have a very very high graduate employability rate once the graduation is completed. Right. This is how the full-time MBA programs look like. It is divided into four semesters. The first fall semester is basically more about the fundamental courses, right? And then from the spring to the next fall and to the next spring, you can have those capstone projects and then those general leadership programs. And then you can also tailor your MBA towards a particular domain, for example, in data analytics, for example, in operations management. And that's where the whole ecosystem of Smith comes into place. Like we have, very, very reputed faculty in marketing, for example, and then you can tailor your MBA or your master's program first towards that marketing domain. Is what we are looking at, and that is nearly about $22,000. That is the average signing bonus that our people receive. Right. This is what the employment by function and employment by industry looks like. So a lot of people go into the consulting industry once they are out of their MBA, and then there is of course the finance, general management. But you can see the operations and logistics, which is really interesting to see. And then by the industry, you can see financial services. Technology is one of the biggest takeaways for a lot of graduates. Consulting, consumer packaged goods again. So across the industry, across the functions we are able to place those students just because of how we have designed the curriculum and how the career services works with everybody who is enrolled within the program. Right, snapshot of the kind of companies that hire through campus. Of course, it's phenomenally different from what we see in India, and you might be aware of that. But there is strong networking that needs to happen when you are, in your MBA or your MS programs anywhere in the world. I mean, it's not just for the US, but there is a strategic approach to finding a job. And being one of the graduate students back in the day, I graduated from University of Florida in the US, and I had no idea about networking. And then gradually I sort of acquired that art, I would say, of being connected to only the relevant kind of people. It's not great that you are connected to maybe 100, 200 people. But if you have 5 people in your network who can really help you out with jobs, with recommendations, the system is provided by Smith to all its graduates. So we have running deadlines as we speak. For the MBA, it is 30th of April. We are accepting applications right now. And for the MBA, the GRE or the GMAT is waived off for people who have more than 3 years of experience, and also who have completed, some sort of certifications, like specialized certifications in terms of Six Sigma, in terms of lean management, in terms of CFA, for example. So the GRE and GMAT is waived off for that. We require one letter of recommendation. We have an online application fees of $75. And then there is an essay, there is an interview, for the full-time MBA programs, but not for the business masters programs. And then, of course, you are required to submit your essays, your CVs. Right. So ignore these deadlines. The 30th of April is the deadline that we are looking at right now. And for the master's students, 10th of March is the earliest deadline that we have. And after that, there is again a rolling deadline that happens till the 1st of April. So if any one of you is interested in applying to Smith School of Business, do reach out to me. I'll put my email address in the chat box later on. And then we can have a formal one-on-one conversation on how you are the right fit for the program or not, and then you can go ahead and apply. And for the master's program, I also have a few application fee waivers. So if you are looking for applying to master's program, do reach out to me again. I can help you out also with the application fee waiver codes. Right. A brief idea about the tuition fees that we have. It is 54 credits for the master for the MBA program, and you can look at the in-state and the out of state tuition fees, which is $2,300 per credit hour. For the master's program, we have 30 credits program, and for the MQF, which is the quantitative finance, there are additional 6 credits. So we have 36 credit programs for that, and the out-of-state tuition fees is $2,000 credit per credit. Right. Coming to the financial awards, this is one of the more interesting parts. So last year we were able to give to all our MBA candidates some form of scholarship. So we had 100% track record on that. That every MBA candidate who was with us was receiving some kind of scholarships, and these scholarships range for the MBA. It is significantly higher, which ranges from $20,000 to anywhere to $50,000. And then there is also a GA position, which sometimes people get, which gives you the chance of paying the fees as an in-state student, right? So that again is a big sort of benefit for you if you are getting that GA position. Right. For the specialty master's program, the scholarship ranges somewhere between $2,500 up to $20,000, and there is also GA opportunity available, but mostly I would say that MBA candidates get those GA positions, right? There is no separate scholarship application that is required to apply for these scholarships. So all the applications that are coming to us are automatically considered for scholarships. And once the sort of an understanding of the kind of budgets allocated to the department this year, and then we will start dispersing these scholarships, right? So it will always happen that once you have an admit, and then few days later, probably a month later or so, you will be getting that scholarship from the department. Great. Thank you so much. I just wanted to put this out there. If people are not aware of Smith School of Business or University of Maryland, the kind of programs that we offer. And now we can, I think, pull out the resumes which we have shortlisted. And before that, probably we can take up a few questions if there are.
Right. So you want to start with Shubda then? Or you want to take some questions which are in the chat?
I'm just looking at the questions.
Okay.
Right. So Anjali says, how likely is one to be admitted after being placed in a waitlist for MIS program, and when will the decision be conveyed? So Anjali, what waitlist essentially means is the admission committee is looking favorably at your application. It's not a thing to be disheartened from, because you have cleared at least the first level. Okay, so you have not received an admit, but there can be a lot of reasons for that. Probably your application is very interesting, but there are few aspects of your application which is not fitting to what a typical class would look like. Right? It can be your scores, it can be your SOP, it can be your work experience, it can be the diversity of the class. There are a lot of various parameters, correct? So when the Smith School gives you a wait list, or any other school for that matter gives you a wait list, it is an encouraging thing that, okay, I am there, the university is considering me seriously. And if the class does not go as per the expectations, or if the quality of applications does not come in, then you, apart from all the other people, you will be the first person who will be receiving that, right? So to answer your question, there are chances, especially this year. This year is extremely uncertain in all the terms, in terms of the vaccines getting given, in terms of how the programs would be, whether they will be blended, whether they will be online. So there is a lot of uncertainty this year. So you should always keep your hopes high. And the second part of your question was that, how soon. So right now we are looking at, all the applications from the people who have submitted in December to, the current one, which is the February 15th deadline that passed. So once we are through with that, then probably by the end of April, or probably by the mid of May, then you will be able to know for sure if you have been admitted or rejected by the university. MS in cybersecurity, we do not offer MS in cybersecurity from the Smith School of Business, but there is an MS in cybersecurity from the University of Maryland that you can apply. It's not a Smith School of Business program. Is MBA STEM program? No, it is not. Right. So Vishrut, I'll type in my email address, once I have completed this session, and then you can have a mail with me, and then we can schedule probably a one-on-one conversation. Right. PhD admissions again is a very, very specific topic. Ankit, I would probably discuss it with you, not on this forum, because this is only for profile evaluation for an MBA and then an MS. But then let's have a conversation, after this, probably tomorrow, day after, where I can, give you some insight into what the PhD applications and admissions look like. The full-time MBA is not STEM. It's not taking care of the PhD admissions right now. So this is interesting. How can a full-time MBA student increase his or her chances of becoming a GA? Okay, so I see a lot of questions, and I just realized that we are already half an hour on time. So let me just put a stop here, and we can jump into the resume part, because that is, I think, one of the more critical parts we have. I can, everybody who is right now in this conversation, just drop in your email addresses to Jamburi, phone numbers, email addresses, and names. And we will schedule one-on-one conversations with every one of them who is interested in talking to me about the Smith School. Okay.
Sure. So shall we take Shubda's profile first?
Yes. Okay, great. How many of you are excited for this? Resume is like that black box. Everybody talks about it, but I don't know why people cannot sort of design that proper resume, which, in that first read leaves. I have a resume like that. I would come to it later on in the session, but let's start with Shubhada. Shubhada, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
So the first thing, let me just quickly introduce you to how a resume is read by the
Okay.
admissions committee. So resume is probably the first document that the admission committee sees for an MBA or a master's candidate.
Yeah.
Okay? And then what happens is it is passed on to students or who are faculty members, and they give a qualitative and a quantitative score to each resume. Personality which that candidate is having. So you should think of a resume in terms of your pitch. Okay. That is the first idea for me of designing a resume. It should be your quantitative achievements that should come into the picture, right? So let's categorize the SOP as the qualitative document, which talks a lot more about the motives and the purpose and the career goals, and not just about the numbers. But in the resume, you have to showcase your numbers. You have to showcase the kind of achievement that you have brought in, the kind of value that you have put in a particular project. Okay.
Okay.
Secondly, the objective is, uh, one of the most addressed question is what is the size of a resume? How many pages it should span to? I would say stick to one page. There has been a lot of discussion on how to make probably a 5 years of experience into one page, compress everything together. But it happens, and I have seen multiple cases. I have worked on multiple resumes where even experiences of 8 to 10 years were compressed into that one page, and the end result is fantastic. I mean, it looks like a person who has done a lot of things. It looks like a person who has achieved some things, right? And that is the pitch that I was talking about. So from your SOP, you give a pitch to the committee saying that, okay, you are this kind of person. But from the resume, you are giving a pitch that, okay, you are a result driven person, and you understand what your actions in your project, in your job, has brought value to, probably in terms of dollar value, probably in terms of increasing the efficiency of the organization, probably in terms of the workflow, whatever be the case, whatever your variable is. Okay. So coming to Shubhada's resume, the objective, first of all, is not required in a resume which is for an MBA or a master's program, right? So every resume that you design is different. If you are applying for a job, there is a certain kind of resume. So you have to customize your resume to the MBA program, understanding what the admission committee is looking at, right? So the admission committee is not looking at your entire sort of life. Okay, they are looking out for those specific points which they can make a decision upon. Okay, so if they are looking out, so as I said, we are looking out for leadership positions, for example, in your CV. So if we can clearly identify that you have been promoted, for example, or you have brought this kind of change in the organization, I think that would really make the resume more impactful. Okay. So from the customization point of view, objective is not required, because your only objective with this resume is to apply to the program, right? There is no other objective, right? So the objective is very clear to us. We understand that. So save your space, not write the objective, right? Start immediately from the education part. That is the first thing that we want to see. What has been your undergrad degree? What has been your GPA? What are the recommended courseworks that you have taken, for example? Every program might have a few prerequisites, correct? So probably for a business analytics program, there will be a prerequisite in statistics. Okay. So you can write those recommended or the coursework that is relevant to your program, right? In the education part. Then what we see, then we see your achievements in college, right? So the kind of the kind of social clubs that you are a part of, the kind of associations that you led, or whether there was a leadership journey there as well, you were a president of a club or something. That in a resume will create a lot of difference, because that gives us an indication that, okay, this person is not just a unidimensional or one-dimensional person. There is a multi-dimensional approach to his experiential abilities, right? So uh, so put in the extracurricular part also right up at the front, when you are writing your education part. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Now coming to the academic project. So when you are designing a resume, there are 5 sections, right? So yeah, broadly containing 5 sections. So first part is the education that we look at. The second part is the professional experience that you are having that we look The third part is the kind of project skills. And then there is any kind of additional information that you want to provide to the admissions committee. These are broadly the 5 domains that you will be writing in your resume. That is a standard format. Okay? So after education comes the experience part. What has been your professional experience? Okay. So Shubhada, are you applying for the MBA program or the master's program?
So currently I'm applying for the master's program.
Which
Master's
master's program?
management in information systems.
Information systems. Okay.
Yeah,
And you have a work experience which is into
4 years.
TCS.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, you have 4-year work experience.
yes.
Interesting. Right. So let's come to this part, then professional experience. Right. What I see here missing is the numbers that I was talking about. Okay. It is good that you were involved. Okay. The first part, which gives the admissions committee the idea that the student is intelligent and he has thought about the beginning of a particular bullet point. Right. So when you say actively involved in a project, that means you are telling and not showing. Okay. What showing means is if you have been actively involved in a project during its various phases of software development, user requirement analysis, technical specification, design, so all the parts of software development cycle, then there must be some like hardcore numbers that you can throw in, which will give the impact that you have created.
Okay.
So you have written 3 bullet points, but you have not, in any of the bullet points, I do not see what was the end result of your action. Okay, so you developed a code, correct? But then what was the implication of developing that code? If you have debugged an issue, for example, you can think about how many issues you have debugged.
Okay, yeah.
So generally, the approach that I sort of follow in a resume is the STAR approach, which is, S is for the scope of the project that you have done, right? The scope can be in terms of the dollar value of the project, right? Or it can be the kind of stakeholders that were involved in the project, or it can be the clients that were involved in the project, right? So by scope, what you are telling essentially the admission committee is, okay, this was the project that I was working on, these were my broad areas of my job. Okay. The second part is the task that were assigned to me. So T stands for the task part, right? So task is basically what kind of things you were doing, right? Or what kind of things you were assigned to. So when you say, you were actively involved in project during the various phases, these are the tasks that were assigned to you, right? One of the tasks was to develop that code. So you have to tailor your bullet point according to the task part. Okay. The A part is the action that you have taken. So if you have developed the code, probably which particular platform you used for it. And then what happened after that? If that code was really helpful in, I don't know, like developing the product, or increasing the efficiency of the workflow, or whatever is the case, right? The end result that you have to mention, and that comes in the R part of it, the result part, right? So ideally, what you should do is, for me, like a 4-year job, you might have had number of projects. Okay?
Yeah.
So pick out maybe 3 projects from your job. Okay. For every project, you divide your bullet points into that STAR format. STAR, scope, task, action, and result, and then conceptualize the bullet point based on that. That would be my approach to every role that you are having as a SAP ABAP consultant, or then as a project test lead. So in that, when you were doing the project test leading, pick out one project, okay, where you can identify these areas. What was the scope of that project? What was the action that was given to you? What was the task that was given to you? What was the action taken? And then what was the result? And then you can calibrate those 4 things. Right. So that is clear. Then we come to the achievements. There are too many achievements right now, and it is really confusing, because you see, the admissions committee will not have a lot of time to read a resume which is content heavy. Okay, they are looking out for information which is easily accessible in the resume. They do not have to, or they don't want to find any information, right? They are not looking for that. So it is your responsibility as a candidate that you have to showcase those like very specific information, not all your life journey, not everything that you have done from your 10th standard to your job which you are doing right now. Not everything is required. Especially 10, 12 marks is not at all required. Please do not put it. Everyone, I think I saw one or two resumes which had those 10th and 12th mark sheets. Absolutely not required, especially for an MBA, but also for business masters program. Absolutely not required. Okay. In achievements section also put only like 2 or 3 points, not more than that. Because again, people will be lost in this information, right? If you are writing, on spot award for this, then from, on this particular date, that is too much information for me, right? I don't want to know everything about you, how many people, how many appreciation awards. So be very, very brief, be very to the point. Okay. Extracurricular activities, pass the intermediate drawing grade examination. I think it would be better if you can again quantify that information into something like, okay, you did this activity, but what happened? What was the end result of it? If full, the bullet point, not just like passing the exam. Because for me, I don't know like what was the competency level of the exam, how many people took it. I have no idea on that. So I would need to require those kind of insights from your extracurricular activities.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then co-curricular activities can come up, in the education part as well. That you can. All right. So I see a few questions. Maybe. Okay. People are putting in their answer. Okay. So Shubhada, do you understand what I kind of pointed about? Do you have a few questions that I can address?
Yes, so you are talking about the three stages that I need to divide my projects into. So this has to be done in a tabular form, you suggest?
No,
The,
absolutely not. No tables
okay.
required, nothing of that. Straightforward, easy to read. Readability should be
Okay.
nice. So don't put in your pictures. Don't put in too many white spaces. Don't put in tables for sure. I mean, it does not look professional.
Okay.
Just put in like, it's very, very simple. In your education, whatever in that case is your GPA, then your social activities, then your recommended courses or whatever courses that you have taken as per the requirements of the university. That is the education part, right? Then in your
Okay.
professional experience, you have to put in your company's name, your designation, what was the period that you were working in for that position, and then maximum 4 bullet points per role. Okay, so if you have
Okay.
move to a better position, business consultant or something, then you can put in like 2 job profiles, 2 job roles, and for every job role, maybe 3 or 4 bullet points. But don't exceed maybe 5. I mean, that is too much again, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that is there, and then after that, you put in your technical skill set, you put in your additional information. If you have any other kind of hobbies maybe, or any personal things that you want to share, if you're a musician, for example, whatever be the case. So that is kind of the approach that I want to advise to everyone who is in the session right now for the resume design. Okay, the resume is probably the smartest document that you can create, and one look at the resume should get the candidate in or out. I mean, that would be my strategy, because it gives me an overall idea of what the candidate is, right? And in most of the cases, this is very interesting, that I came to know about. Was, when people are offered interview by a business school, and Kellogg does it a lot. For the interview, they ask an alum to take the interview, right? So the alum of that university is given only the resume of that person, and then he takes the interview. He has probably a day to study that CV and then take the interview. and then he puts his pointers, and that those pointers are matched from the people who are in the admissions committee, who have read through all the aspects of the application. So the who have read the SOP, who have read the LOI, who have gone through the CV, and who have the online application document and all the data points from there, right? So you have one personality from there, and one personality that the interviewer gets from that CV and then an interview, and those two personalities are matched, right? And if those are on the same lines, then there is a strong possibility that you will receive an interview, right? So even for your interview, that resume is extremely important, right? Because it will go out to that alum who probably has a lot of industry experience, who have seen multiple resumes in the industry from top people of the world. So if he sees a poorly designed resume, it's the end game right there. I mean, so please design your resume smartly, very strategically, understanding what the admissions committee is looking for, and then going forward with that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Cool. Not a problem. So quickly moving on to the sorry. So quickly, uh, you can see what I was talking about. There are a lot of tables that are there. That is your professional experience. So again, you have 4 years of experience. I would not see the roles and responsibilities, achievements, all like in table format, right? So please try to incorporate what I talked to Shubhada about, of those star format of the CV.
Sure. Hello.
And then put rated revenue of 1.6 crore INR, and to me that is a big number. Okay, so you should put it right at the top. Okay, not like in the case of achievements, but where you have roles and responsibilities, that bullet point probably, or maybe the second bullet point should talk about any function somebody is able to achieve that. I think it's a great thing. You have represented your company in NASCOM. That is great, but it should not come like this. I mean, it should. I mean, for a business school which is based out of Washington, I might or might not be aware of NASCOM. Okay? So if you are writing something which is about winning an award, then also probably try to put in the context of the award. Like what kind of award was it? How many people were probably present? That would give me a brief idea about what exactly are you talking about.
Sure.
Is this in the reverse chronological order? Because I see that okay, you're a business development manager, and before that you're a regional business lead. So okay, this is in reverse chronological order. That is good. This is a good point to have mentored. Mentorship always creates. There's a saying with leaders creates leaders, and then that played is part by the mentorship. So you should play along those mentorship things if you have done. For people who are in the audience, if you have done any sort of mentorship in your company or in your college, try to highlight that. Try to highlight what kind of value, what kind of technology, you trained people upon.
Sure.
Right, the key problem that I see is I don't know like which role and responsibility gave you these kind of achievements. So you have mentioned like 6 bullet points, and then there is one achievement which is in succeeded increasing the business revenue by 75% year on year, correct? But I need to understand that okay, this was this particular role where you use these technologies or these kind of projects, and then the end result was you succeeded in generating that kind of business revenue, right? So so that is what I'm looking for. Right. Again, to use a different format. I think Jamburi probably can share with you some really good formats for the CV. Definitely take a look at it, and redesign the CV, because this is like coming across as very, very monotonous. Again, you have, okay. So one more mistake is probably you should really put in your email address, your phone number, your LinkedIn profile right at the top. Okay, because the admission process is a process of elimination, right? Because we get a lot more than what the class size is. So things are like very, very closely scrutinized. Okay, so put in those things. Remove this creative business development manager part, because this is just telling and not showing. Instead of telling that you are a creative business development manager, if you show from your roles and responsibilities and in the achievements that you have made about what kind of value you have added to a particular project, then it will convince us that you are a creative business manager. You don't need to tell us or Sumit, if you have some questions, probably we can take it on one-on-one. You can write me, because I see that the time is running up. So I want to very quickly
Yes.
come to Shreyas's CV. Right. So as I said, this person has really put it nicely. The phone number, the email address. So basic things are looking right. But then I see that, okay, you have a bachelor's in engineering and mechanical engineering. Can I ask you which profile you are applying to?
I'm applying for the MBA program.
Okay. So the MBA program will need a lot of effort on one, your bullet points that you have mentioned. As I have previously pointed out, if you have been listening, that there is a lot of quantification that is needed. So right now, in
Okay.
all your experiences that I can see, I do not see any number, right? That is a sin for an MBA program, because
Okay.
ultimately the outcomes of an MBA or any job role that you will have will be based on those numbers and those key variables that you are able to achieve, right? So
Okay.
if you are saying that you implemented an interactive dashboard using this, but I don't know, like, why did you implement that dashboard? What was the need for it? What was the data looking like? Okay, who was using that data? Okay, so that sort of questions need to come to you when you are looking at a bullet point, right?
Okay.
Similarly, then develop the backend web service, but why? Why is always important. You have to always write the why of why you are developing something, and then what happened after that. Like, once you develop that, what was the end result of it? Okay. One very important thing, because I see in your resume, it happens a lot, is you are using a lot of technical jargons. And one of the very common misconception of people is that the people who will be reading your resume are from your background. That does not happen.
Okay.
Right? Mostly a person like me who is, for example, I am from mechanical engineering background, and then moved towards the education industry. Most of the people who are in these roles for admissions director and senior directors, they have an MBA, right? But they do not maybe coming. They do not maybe coming from that tech background, right? So,
Okay.
so these are like kind of going into too many details. Okay, so avoid doing that. Your resume should be such that it should be read by a layman once, and then he is able to broadly understand your job function of what you are doing and the kind of value you have added to a particular project, right?
Okay.
You should not go second time towards any bullet point or anything in the resume, right? It should be clear,
Okay.
like when you read it the first time itself. Okay, that
Okay.
should be the accuracy that you should aim for.
Aim for. Okay.
All right. So all the job roles that I see, you have written down that the kind of technologies that you have used or what you have done, like broadly, but end results are very much missing right now. Okay?
Okay.
So try to
Sure.
include that for sure.
Sure.
Okay. Awards, maybe you can shift it right at the top because it gives an impression of the candidate. Right when at the top we see that, okay, this guy was in president's list or something, or you have received a particular entrepreneurship and innovation practicum grant, worth $10,000. I think these are the things you should put as much early in the CV as possible, because
Okay.
we read the CV like line wise, and then we come to understand, okay, this was the education, this was the kind of guy, right? If he has written, okay, 7-pointer or maybe 8-pointer, then you have an image of a person who probably might be studying with you who was an 8-pointer or something, right? That is
Okay.
how we correlate, right?
Sure.
To make a personality. So, so in that case, like if you put all your achievements right at the top, it creates a lot of brand value for you, right? And CV is all about branding, how you brand
Okay.
yourself, how you, even if you have not done as as great thing as you highlight in your CV, that is the game. Like that's how you pitch yourself. Like that's one of the skill sets of an MBA that you should have, the
Okay.
ability to pitch yourself or your product to a particular person.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. So these were my comments. Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. Thing, but you don't understand.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that was it. And then we come to my favorite resume for today, and that is from Jeet Sethi. Jeet, well done for this. I must really congratulate you because this is interesting resume I came, and I, for this kind of a model for your resume. So the first line itself, Jeet Sethi, strategy, analytics, and entrepreneurship. It gives me a broad picture of the person, right? Of what are the areas that he or she is probably comfortable with. Okay. Then there are, of course, the usual details, but then we go into the education part. Very cleverly written, nominated by faculty for full scholarship, top 1%. Social impact award, outstanding community service. Sometimes details do not matter so much as how you put it, right? If the other way of writing this is probably like social impact award for outstanding community service by this or by for this particular organization or something. But again, we are not interested into those details. We are interested into understanding if you are an achiever, if you have done something really worthwhile. Then of course the CFA part is also there, so that is taken care of. Again, that quantification is really important. But now see, the work experience part is really beautifully highlighted. The first project itself, the first bullet point is headline. That's a very, very nice action word to put up right at the top. Right? And again, this gives me an interesting insight into this candidate's profile, that okay, he has researched about this very, very small fine aspect of making a resume, action words. Okay, uh, how you summarize what you have done. You have conducted, or you have participated, or you have built something, or innovated on something, or spearheaded on something. These are verbs that you are describing your action for. Okay, So headlined an acquisition project, right? Optimized distribution. And then you see how well it has been connected to increasing production levels by 25% across the 2 and 3-wheeler sector, right? So you see, there is no sort of jargons that come into the picture. He could have used a lot of jargons, but thankfully he did not. And this is what I was saying by, once you read the first line, it becomes clear what exactly was the goal was and what kind of value Jeet brought to the job role. Okay, optimized distribution in Mexican market. Interesting detail that you have worked in international markets. Very very interesting. Assess data points to expand services, and then 2x client base and annual revenue. Probably here you can include how many data points you were working with. For example, 100 feeds per day, or maybe 300, 500 feeds per day, something like that. Something that gives me a lot more clarity into your data handling capability. Leading a team, this is one of the prime examples again of the leadership potential that I was talking about. So leading a team of 8 in 10 plus strategic change and all of that. Again, boosted revenue, that is the result part. So every line you see has been into that star format. It starts with the scope, led a team, that was the scope, right? Boosted revenues, that was the result, 2 years, the period, so that should be the way you should design each of your bullet points. Right? And this continues throughout the CV. It does not, sometimes I see that, in the first 3 or 4 bullet points, people are very nicely writing whatever they have done. But then when they come to the internship part, they only say that, okay, participated in something. Again, that's a lazy effort to put in. So you should think about all the bullet points in that order of what you have done and then what kind of value you added to the project. Then there is very, very focused leadership experience that he talks about, managing partner of this, public outreach member. And then again, as I was talking about, the extracurricular activities has also been quantified. 10 plus seminars, footfall of 1,000 plus people, 4 Indian states. I absolutely get to know. For me, I mean, if you're applying to say a data analytics curriculum, your data skills are great because you have actually quantified everything that you have done, and that has affected into something. Right? Rest of the all things are nice. So this is what I was talking about. Very very nicely done, Jeet. So if you have any questions, do ask. But mostly things are in place in your resume.
Yes, hello, sir. Thank you so much for such wonderful comments.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was actually planning for applying to the MSBA program at Maryland Smith, and I had a query regarding exactly my profile. Now that you have seen it, my resume per se. But the thing is, the profiles that I have been across who are getting admits at MSBA programs are very much hardcore into data analytics and possibly more towards engineering side. And me coming from a commerce background, I had that glitch regarding my fit in the program. So I just wanted to clarify whether do cohorts at MSBA programs have a commerce or a business background student, or
Absolutely they do, because as I was talking about the diversity part, a lot of people come from that technical engineering sort of background, BTech and BE. Most of the colleges in India, MET, NITs, IITs, these are a regular feeder to our masters and MBA programs, right? So we love that diversity part when somebody brings in like a commerce degree, or when somebody brings in like an undergrad in biotech or something, undergrad in statistics, economics, all those kind of things. But then in your case, the strong point is that you have a 3-year degree, and then you have also completed a diploma course. Or you are completing that, which makes so you bring in a lot of diversity in terms of your background into commerce and then into finance, and then into strategic consulting and all those things. So for us, you are a very interesting candidate to place. Let's see it that way. Yeah, because you will have opportunities from the people who are employing for probably a quantitative finance domain as well. Also for companies who are looking out for business analytics people, and also maybe companies who are into accounting, right? so so you cater to a lot of different industries. So placement for you, for us, like from the career services point of view, will not be a major issue. Okay, because even the employers are looking at those kind of diversity in a candidate profile, and how can they feed on that diversity and the kind of experience that you have into their job roles, right? So that is what I was pointing to. I mean, you should not worry about that only a particular kind of cohort is being created. We are very much cognizant of the fact that we don't want only IT people or only engineers in our cohort. That is absolutely not the case. For you, I mean, you are absolutely eligible to apply right now, and I see a very strong chance in your application. Given I don't know your scores, but we can discuss more on that on a personal.
Surely. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. So that was it for today in terms of CV evaluation. I would like to bring in Shivani at this point. I hope you all the people right here who, you might have taken some kind of insight into how to design this resume, which is a very, very critical component of your application, and do it in the right way possible, in the best way possible. Correct. Shivani, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I would invite a few questions, and then probably we can
Sure.
take a break.
Sure, you can take a few questions if you want, and then we'll close.
So okay, so let me just put up my email ID first. There has been ssinha19@umd.edu. This is my personal email ID. Everyone who is looking for a profile evaluation, one-on-one personal evaluation, please write into me saying that you attended this session, and then we can have probably a call tomorrow or day after. Tomorrow is what, Sunday? Yeah, maybe on Monday, starting Monday, we can do that. I already did. Okay, MBA is not a part of STEM. Do admissions committee consider last 4 semester CGPA more than overall? No. Okay, so some universities do. Our university looks at that overall profile, but yeah, of course we do understand that a second year, third year, second semester, third semester kind of a GPA would not matter to us too much, rather than the last 4 semesters of GPA. So of course you can give that quantified information to us, that in the last 4 semesters you have achieved this, and then your overall GPA is also this. ISEC, I was also a member of ISEC at one point of time. I was the vice president for vendors. It has really improved my confidence. It really got me in touch of very, very interesting thing, right? So if I do network that you got out of it, or the kind of projects that you did, probably a social impact project or something that you can quantify, probably a literacy drive that you were a part of, that you can quantify. So there are a lot of ways to do something with related to IC. Threshold to a GPA, we are typically looking at a GPA in the range of 3.2 to 3.5. That is the typical range. Right. So I see again a lot of requests for the CV review. So just please ping me personally, and then we can sit on that. Right. I think this is good. I really want to be mindful of everybody's time. We are already 15 minutes above the required time. So please keep dropping your email IDs and mails so that Jamboree can sort of accumulate all that information and give it to me as well, and then we can start interacting with everyone. And thank you so much. I hope this session was interesting for you, and have a wonderful time, everybody.
Sure. Thank you, Subkriti, for doing this session. Thank you for taking out the time. And thank you to all the participants for making this discussion lively and all your questions. We unfortunately, we could not have this one-to-one conversation with each of you, but you, as Subkriti has pointed out, you can leave your name and number and we will engage with you. In case you want to reach out Jamboree directly, you already know our center numbers or you can write to us directly. So thank you and take care and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Great. I see that a lot of people have written that these are extremely helpful pointers. I'm glad that you found it that way. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.